I stepped into the recruiting office at 5 p.m. and was greeted by...
What you got?
I disrespectfully thought of the Master Gunnery Sergeant in charge of the station as the old sergeant, or the boss salesman. I didn't like what he brought to the Marine Corps uniform that we wore daily. Not much success yet. I'm working on it, though. The day's nearly fruitless efforts flashed through my mind. Like most days of the past several months, 7 days a week, I arrived at work about 7:30 in the morning, knowing that I could look forward to working until after 10 at night.
Working? Only one of your appointments showed up, and you disqualified him like you thought it was cool.
Cutting off my reply, he continued.
If you didn't make appointments with disqualified people, you wouldn't have to work so hard. And then maybe you could put your 3 bodies in the Marine Corps this month.
You know I screened them before making appointments. I can't help it if they turn out to be druggies, criminals, stupid, or just plain broken when they sit down and I get them talking. But wouldn't you rather I screened them out during the initial interview than have them disqualified after we spent weeks working on them?
Don't tell me you're working when you know it's results that count.
The old sergeant was bellowing as if he had an itch in a bad place today.
What I would prefer is that you got your 3 appointments, you had them show up, you gave them a good interview, you made them all want to join the Corps, and you got them processed into the Corps. Use your investigation stuff to convince them to say yes, not to say that they're disqualified. Then maybe you could get home to that family of yours at a reasonable hour.
Mom, I need you to sign here. I'm leaving next Monday.
The words popped out of my older sister's mouth. Mom's mouth and my mouth were wide open in complete and utter shock. I was 10 years old at the time and couldn't help but wonder what my sister was about to put herself through in Army boot camp. I spent the next couple of days running around the house, nagging my sister for answers to questions. What is it going to be like? What are they going to make you do?
I'm really not sure.
A few years later, I spent a day on Fort Hamilton Army Base in Brooklyn, New York, watching the Marine Corps Silent Drill Team perform. It was a class trip, and all we expected as 8th graders was a really boring history lesson or a performance that would put us to sleep. Sitting there on the grass, I knew I was in for much more. The Marines' press in bright uniforms, along with their intense movements, the pop and lock of their rifles, the clicking of their heels, and their coordinated movements has stood out in my mind for years every time I hear mention of the Marines. As a child, every time I saw one of those red, black, and gold United States Marine Corps emblems, I always thought back on those Marines in their ever so bright and pressed uniforms. I had always heard that they were the best, whatever that meant, and knew that one day, if I was strong enough to sign up, I wanted to be a Marine. I convinced myself over and over again that I could never do it. I convinced myself that I wasn't even worthy dreaming about it. In my mind, becoming a Marine was just not possible for a weak 120-pound girl with no athletic orientation whatsoever. The words raced over and over in my head.
There's just no way I can ever make it.
Being assigned to recruiting duty for my usual job in the Marine Corps as a criminal investigator was both good and bad. As an investigator, I wasn't afraid to talk to people or ask them questions. But as a recruiter, I was twice as likely to find the prospects were disqualified. Once a successful screening was done, I smoothly conducted the interview because I had interviewed so many people before as an investigator. Still, I felt I had to be honest.
Slacking off again, eh? Get busy and sell someone on the Corps.
One Saturday afternoon in the mall, I saw him, the man who would recruit me into the Marines and help me begin my journey. Neither he nor I knew it at the time, but I would be only one of 2 women who he would recruit and ship off to boot camp during his entire 3-year recruiting tour. I stared as he passed through the food court, holding a cup of coffee and wearing that uniform so pressed and bright. Instantly, that silent drill team I had thought about for years came to mind. I couldn't help but think I should at least talk to him. Talking to him could do no harm. He could never convince me to give up my high-paying job to join. I was way stronger than that. I followed him downstairs to his office and let him walk far ahead of me. He entered the small recruiting hub and closed the door. I chickened out and went home. If I wasn't going to join, I didn't even want to waste his time. Excuses were still winning the battle in my mind. One day, despite all of those self-inflicted negative thoughts, I did it. I went into the recruiter's office to donate to the Marine Corps Reserve Toys for Tots program and scheduled an appointment for an enlistment interview. I got the look.
So you want to be a Marine?
That really lit me on fire. Not a fire of anger, but a fire of motivation. I had long hair and long red nails. I was wearing a suit and heels. But so what? I could be a Marine too, if I wanted. Plenty of females made it through boot camp before me, and plenty will make it after me. Who were any of them to look at me puzzled just because I didn't exactly fit the average description of a potential Marine? I'd show them. That became my new attitude regarding the Marine Corps. It was an attitude